America's Psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, unpacks why Trump derangement syndrome is a real psychological phenomenon and extremely destructive on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The video version you can find at YouTube, Rumble, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, vachristian.org, Conservative Television of America, the America First Warehouse.com, yournews.com, and WeSeeYouMedia.com. Wherever you go to find the show, please click the notification button, subscribe, and leave us a rating and a review. Tell us what you think. At radioinfluence.com, you can find all the previous shows, up to now 200 high-profile guests who have appeared, some when it was audio, some when it's now been video. You'll find the likes of Charlie Kirk, Carrie Lake, Diamond and Silk, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Charles Gasparino, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Tom Holman, Peter Navarro, Ted Nugent, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Kevin Sorbo, Naomi Wolf, Morgan Brittany, Ben Carson, Monica Crowley, Miranda Devine, and Pastor Alan Jackson, many, many more. So we hope you'll go and look and see what we have done in the past and what a lot of the people said then is just as pertinent now. So, has TDS, which is Trump derangement syndrome, really evolved from political disagreement into a full-blown psychological obsession marked by irrational hatred, paranoia, and emotional instability? Well, our guest absolutely says it has. Ready to learn about it? Well, let's get into it. My guest is a board-certified forensic psychiatrist, best-selling author, and three-time Emmy-honored TV personality. A leading voice on the intersection of politics and mental health. She was a guest when the show was audio only. I welcome back to the broadcast a prominent conservative voice who has been dubbed America's Psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman, great to have you back. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be back.
And we need you because we need somebody to let us know what is this we're seeing. Now, you say the symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome mirror mass psychosis where people lose all rational thinking when it comes to Trump. You were quoted recently in the dailymail.com stating, quote, Trump derangement syndrome isn't just a joke. It's a legitimate psychological phenomenon. Please unpack that because, you know, there are people who say, you know, the anti-Trump crowd just need to suck it up like we did when Obama and Biden were president. Or in the case of Biden, maybe president.
Yes. Well, they call it, instead of Trump derangement syndrome, they call it Trump devotion syndrome. They call us crazy. Well, you know, Trump derangement syndrome has been around for quite some time, you know, during his first term. However, it was never like it is now, you know, and when he was running for president this time, I was hoping that it would kind of gradually go away as once he got inaugurated. I was at the inauguration, by the way. Once he got inaugurated and people started to see that he was putting these plans, these orders into process, you know, into effect, and they would realize all these things are great. Well, that hasn't happened because there are people who are refueling this TDS, you know, generating it, causing people to get more and more angry. So it's not going to go away for a while, which is why I am in the process of proposing it, finalizing the diagnostic criteria, finalizing the whole proposal to put it in the form of DSM. DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, is the book that the American Psychiatric Association writes. It's the definition of different disorders. And the purpose of it is not only to have an even playing field so that mental health professionals could talk to each other and be in the same language, but it's also for insurance companies because they determine, I mean, it wasn't for them, but they use it to determine how much money they're going to be spending on how quickly somebody should get well from whatever their disorder is, which is really absurd. But anyhow, my formal diagnosis is an irrational, quasi-psychotic hatred of anything Trump, resulting in rage and over-the-top efforts to destroy him and his work. And we see that with the Teslas, for example, and also with J.D. Vance. So the point of trying to get it in getting it in the DSM would be that people with TDS can get their treatment paid for.
I got a question before you go any further. How do you treat this? Because they'll tell you the only treatment is assassination or he goes away. How do you treat this? Because I know it's true. There are people, if you just go Trump, they turn to goo.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, certainly a lot of people with TDS don't want treatment because they think, we're the ones who need treatment. But there are some. I divided it into minor, moderate, and major cases. And so the minor cases, the ones who, for example, rail about Trump on TikTok, there is a well, my general treatment for anything is therapy, and whether it's individual or couples, like if you have TDS and your spouse is ready to divorce you, and you know that there have been lots of divorces over TDS, or if you have a family and it's making the whole family chaotic. So there's couples therapy, family therapy, individual therapy, and medication for those who have gone from quasi-psychotic, to psychotic. So for some examples are, well, first of all, it's most commonly found in men who have low self-esteem because they compare themselves, and they don't know that they're doing this necessarily consciously, but unconsciously, they compare themselves to Trump. And he is like a manly man,
Alpha male. Yeah.
An alpha male, exactly. There we go. And he has this beautiful wife. He has a lot of money. I mean, he's what little boys are told to aspire to. But it's one thing when he has it and they don't have it. Then all of a sudden it's terrible that he has it. Now he is. I will agree that he is sometimes a bull in a china shop. That is part of his personality. But it's only because he believes so strongly in what he's doing and what he wants to do for America and so on. And then for women,
now, Dr. Lieberman, let me just stop you right here because there's something that I have to ask you about these men.
Yes.
Aren't these the same guys that were digging Trump when he was doing The Apprentice and firing people, and when he was like a playboy type guy? And didn't everybody love the Donald? Even these men?
Yes.
What happened?
Yes, he went from that phase to this phase. It was fine when he was a television personality.
The same guy.
Yes, and he was super rich then too, but he went too far in some of these men's eyes. So like for them, the therapy isn't to try to convince them to love Donald. It's to help them with their low self-esteem so that they don't feel so jealous of Trump. Yes, but you make a very good point. And for women, it's the super hyper feminist women who don't like Trump. The women who were the pussy hats a while ago. And now, remember, when Trump during the campaign and then even after when he got elected, there were women who were saying they were going to not have sex. They were protesting for all womankind. And they were going to be doing that by not having sex, not having babies, not going out with guys, all of that. It's like Lysistrata, the Greek play, where the women refused sex with their men because they wanted to protest the war. This isn't quite the same. It's not protesting a war, which is a decent reason.
Hold
So
on,
those are the
Doctor.
people.
Dr. Carole, I have to stop you again because I have to spank these women. Aren't these same women? Shouldn't they understand? Earth to feminists, Donald Trump is standing up for you as a woman against this. Well, we don't know what gender we are and having biological men playing in women's sports. He's taking your side. How can you do this to him?
Yes, yes. Well, see, those things that you just brought up for the women and the men are good examples of how they are not logical. These people who have TDS are not logical. Yes, what you said, of course, makes a lot of sense, but they're not looking at that part. So, that's why this is a disorder. That is why this is a disorder. It's not just a serious disorder.
I know. Yeah, we're kind of chuckling, but this isn't funny because people are dying. People can lose their lives. They're losing their cars. They're losing their home. People can get swatted, all kind of stuff. And if you're wearing Trump
Yeah,
paraphernalia in the street, you can get jumped depending on where you live or whatever. And it's completely
yeah,
irrational. You could be sitting with your wife or with anybody in a movie, in a restaurant, and somebody spit on your food, spit it in your face. This is very serious.
yeah. Yes, it is. I know. There are some parts that are funny because they're so crazy, they're so illogical. But yes, on the serious side, it is very serious because of things that you were saying, but also because, you know, um, these people are so organized. Some of the people are really well organized, and they are trying to stop Trump at every angle, every way, every which way they can, from putting across, following through with his promises as he's trying to do. So there are the judges, of course, who are continuing with lawfare. There are people who are just trying to stop every, of course, with immigration. I mean, every policy that he is trying to put into action to help America, things that he promised during the campaign, he's trying to do them. And that's what the American people voted for. And it was a sort of a landslide. It was with a lot of votes. It wasn't close. So it was too big to rig, which, when he said that, people were thinking that, we hope that's what it's going to be. But it was shocking that they didn't do more funny business to get over the too big to rig.
But you brought up a very good point, and then I'll let you get back to the other forms of treatment. You brought up a very good point, and this is where it really becomes dangerous. When you have a Stalin or a Lenin or a Mao or whoever, the Hitler, those guys, okay, your anger can be directed at somebody, and those guys, you have a right to have your anger towards them. You don't have your right to have anger towards this man that's sticking up for we the people, trying to bring Christianity, trying to bring, the Judeo-Christian Bible back, trying to bring back the Constitution. You don't have a right to go after him for doing the right thing. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop with Trump, right? They target his allies, his supporters, his policies. Then you say this creates a dangerous climate of censorship and persecution. Will you please explain that? And then you can go back and tell how maybe we can help these people.
Well, yes, I mean, that is the major type. Um, so for example, just to go back, a mild case of TDS would be, the people who, when Trump comes on the television, they throw things at the television, or if there are other people there, they go off into a tantrum about, how horrible this man is, and so on. If you ask people why they don't like him, they don't really have any answer. Oh, he's a horrible man. And, the Democrats during the campaign, of course, ultimately were calling him Hitler and everything. I mean, they didn't talk about his policies because there was nothing to talk about, nothing to criticize. They were talking about him, trying to make him seem like the devil. Are you going to elect the devil? Then an example of a mild case would be, the late, and I'm being generous here, the ladies of The View.
See, I see them as radical.
Well, I mean, mild compared to, compared to assassinating him or something like that. I mean, yes,
They're
they go on
almost there,
and on.
Dr. Carole. They're almost there. They're on the edge of right, especially Anna Navarro. They're and Joy Behar. They're about to lose it. By the way, Sonny Hostin has kind of said, we have to do something here. Somebody step up and do something. Well, what does she want them to do? I wonder.
Well, that's true. I may have to reconsider that. It was kind of, I don't know. I mean, I was talking earlier about like people on TikTok, going on about Trump. That's a relatively minor case. But yes, maybe I have to reconsider that.
Okay.
A moderate case is someone who, in addition to these mild symptoms, their life has been overtaken by TDS. It interferes with work and family and, the normal thing, normal responsibilities. They're unable to distinguish between what one doesn't like about Trump's policies from what they don't like about him personally. They're unable to calm themselves to prevent lashing out verbally and or physically. So, like, for example, and they do marches and write op-eds and that kind of thing, threatening people who wear MAGA hats. You were mentioning that hat recently, and I'm sure you saw, there was a news story about a woman on the subway in New York.
I live in New York. Yeah, we've done it 1,000 times. Down she goes.
Yes.
She's down.
I'm a New Yorker born and bred. I live in California now.
I know.
So I read the first thing I do is read the New York Post every morning. So that's how I saw that. So anyway, she chased him. For those who didn't see that, she chased this young man. First of all, she was calling him a racist.
A racist, right.
Which, I don't know what race he was, but he wasn't Caucasian. So it was kind of a strange thing to say anyway. Of course, that's what these people do. But they just assume all these things. And so she chased him out of the train, the subway, and started trying to follow him down the platform to get his hat. And she tripped and fell on her face. And
and you know what? You are right about this. That woman has Trump derangement syndrome, and as somebody that grew up in New York, you know what I'm about to say is true. Anybody that lives in New York in any of those boroughs that take the subway, no, you do not go after somebody on the subway because that person could be crazier than you are.
That is
the
true.
fact she got in that guy's face was amazing from the standpoint that proves she had Trump derangement syndrome, because people don't get in people's faces. Hey, you had a guy set somebody on fire on the subway. They torch people. They do all kind of things. She has no idea who this guy is, what he has. He's going to pull out a knife and scissors and stab her. And then she's going to chase him. The woman was totally, as Bill O'Reilly would say, a loon.
Yes. And what was interesting, though, was that some people on the subway car defended him. I thought that was very interesting, not people who knew him. I think he was alone, but people said that, that yelled back at her that she was wrong, kind of thing. Then
he has a right to wear what he wants. How dare you? Yeah.
So these moderate cases, and they commit road rage on seeing a Trump bumper sticker on a vehicle, that kind of thing. Now, an example is former President Barack Obama at the Democratic National Convention. He said Trump has a weird obsession with crowd sizes, and he was going like this, trying to say that, must be because he's small. Then we have Tim Waltz, who he really shows that he shows how he has TDS. He talks about how that he's talking about how his the reason why he didn't get elected was because his masculinity scared people. I mean, he is totally delusional. Then the more serious cases, a major case. That's someone who, an example of this is someone who quits their job and leaves their family to work full time trying to stop Trump. They leave the U.S. I mean, these are.
There you go.
It could be one or more of these. leave the U.S. in protest of Trump winning, doing something illegal to try to stop Trump, such as bribing a judge, threatening a major figure in Trump's administration, attacking someone's Tesla, doxing Trump supporters, and of course, making swatting calls. A lot of Trump supporters have been swatted,
Some of
which
my
is so
friends.
dangerous. Yes, I mean, people obviously can be killed. The people in the house and even the police, when everybody's coming at each other with guns, that's a dangerous situation. And then, of course, last but not least, fantasizing about harming Trump oneself, joining a nefarious group plotting harm to Trump, or arranging for someone else to harm Trump, even though you know that, you're going to get a serious punishment. So examples are Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres, who moved out of America.
Good.
New York Attorney General Letitia James, who campaigned on a platform against Trump. Of course, now she's in trouble
He's in trouble.
for her mortgage things. And how do you like that she put her father as her husband? That Freud would love that. That is an Oedipal triangle, an unresolved Oedipal complex is what.
Maybe she got that from Ilhan Omar. She said, well, if she can do that with her brother, let me just take it one step higher. Yeah.
Exactly. So, so those kinds of things, but so it's really, there's been a wave of swatting. And
where
then
do you put the actual assassination attempts? Those have happened, right?
Well, yeah, those are major. Yeah. What do you mean the two that, yes, that's true. I should mention them specifically. That is true. There might be more by the time
Yeah. Well, there's been more, but there's 2 or 3 we know of, and
Right.
those people, and they just caught a guy, that killed his parents so he could get the money. This is totally out of control.
Yes. Yes, he killed his parents to get their money to be able to plan an assassination and to carry out an assassination. I don't know. It wasn't clear whether he was going to do it himself or he was going to hire someone. But yes, it was to assassinate Trump. That just shows you how far this has come, and how it's not a joke. We laughed about it the first term around, but it's really same thing. Elon Musk and JD Vance are taking their lives in putting their lives in danger too. And about when like JD Vance was walking somewhere and there was a crowd, and he had his little 3-year-old daughter, and the crowd was getting aggressive and all that and frightening the little girl. That's too much.
Now I have a question. Because you're talking about people that are supposed to have some type of intellect. Now, they, for the past 30 years, have been trying to convince us that we have to take all this money and do all this stuff for the environment, for the planet, So you have the left, they have all these Teslas and electric cars, and your governor out there, Gulag Gavin, he wants everybody to have an electric car or okay. So, but why? Oh, you can't drive those gas guzzlers anymore because we have to save the planet. Don't they realize now that they've turned on Musk and they're going after their own people, which means they're eating their young, they're eating their own. Don't they realize they've just exposed that the environmental movement and save the planet was bogus all along, like we knew? Or did they say, no, don't deranged, this is more? They've actually blown their cover. You have a guy taking his Tesla and saying, I'm selling it, and going and getting a gas guzzler, and this guy was one of the leading proponents of the environmental movement. This is, you're right, total lunacy.
Yes, absolutely. All of a sudden it was the most important thing in the world, the global warming, and now, well, it was important, but
and the people that are doing this too are liberals. It's their people. People are starting to put little plackets in their car. Hey, I'm one of you. Please spare my car.
Really? Have they? I haven't seen that.
Yes, people. Yeah, they. I forgot which. I don't want to get the wrong newscaster, but people are putting things in their windshield, telling people, "Hey, I'm for the movement. I'm part of the revolution. don't blow my car up.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm not sure if the people with the, who are destroying the cars. I mean, and yes, and that's another thing, that it's one thing to, and I'm not condoning it, but it's one thing to sort of, damage Teslas in a showroom or in a factory, but to do it to individuals, people who are, and yes, and most of those people were Democrats, were, at least they were for the global warming. They were against global warming. They were for the environment, and now you're hurting them individually. That isn't right. But people aren't thinking about those things logically.
You're right. And you brought up a very good point. And this is part of the problem at the crux of the matter. You have said on other interviews that Republicans, and rightfully so, are focused on fixing America. It's all about the issues. But you said for Democrats, it's all about Trump. It's personal. And see, when it's personal, this is why would you say we can't talk to them? Because when we want to talk issues, all they want to talk about, I don't like him.
Yes, but as a psychiatrist, I have to believe, and I have seen, myself, there is hope for everybody. Even the most seriously mentally ill, for example, schizophrenics who are in psychiatric hospitals and all that, you can make progress. You can, I don't believe in giving up hope on anyone. So that's why, I'm trying to, and hopefully, some people will recognize themselves in this diagnosis, one of the three, minor, moderate, or major, and maybe think about it. Am I crazy? Should I get help? That kind of thing.
Well, let's go deep into psychology and deep into the mind of the psychiatrist, because I'm really going to pick your brain here on this, because it just seems to me, having been around here for a while, that there are a lot of people that like their condition. In other words, there are people who like complaining, or they like being in a bad situation, and people will offer them ways out, but they don't want to take them, because for some reason that you're about to tell us, they like wallowing in their sorrow and they don't want to come out of it. They're comfortable there. Is that a problem here, where we're trying to bring people out of this for their own good, and too many of these people say, no, I like this syndrome, I want it, I don't want this to go away?
Yes, that is true. That is a good point. Yes, whether it's people who, um, have depression, there's something called treatment resistant depression. And some of that is because people are comfortable, as you put it, in their depression, not going out, or, getting people to try to help them, getting people who try to call them up and make sure they're okay, or that kind of thing, and all different kinds of conditions. So yes, there are some people who just, well, because part of it is because they feel that they are sticking up for, for women. They're sticking up for all women by doing this, and just in general, they think that they're standing up for America. I mean, they're so deluded. They think that they are the ones who are keeping America free and democracy, and they tell themselves this. And plus, there are all these, they get together either in person or online, and they feed themselves these lines, so they think they're doing it for the good of the country. So they don't know. Yes, so yes, these people wouldn't want to get better. But you can only help the ones who want to get helped, and you just keep trying, keep chipping away. I mean, we
Well,
have to keep
here's
doing
what troubles me. Here's what, I won't use worry, but this is what I'm concerned about. How does Trump do what we, the people, elected him to do, when not only are you having to deal with radicals, globalists, the Republican establishment, and you have a wide variety of creatures still lurking in the murky swamp? You have to deal with all of that. And now you have to deal with with people that aren't even thinking about the issues, but they just have this TDS on top of this. I would think like somebody like Lenin, who always talked about the useful idiots in his grave,
Yeah.
he could see this. He said, "Oh, why couldn't it have been like this for me? They could have these TDS people." I mean, this is, oh, the useful idiots. These people are better than useful idiots. They're oh, why? So you have the radicals, the globalists, the established. You have the people that don't want America first. They want the globalists. They want all their stuff overseas. They want the cheap labor. Then you have the swamp creatures, and now he's got to deal with this. How does can he go about doing what he was elected to do by we the people with all of this obstruction?
Well, yes, it is a lot. I mean, I think the way he's doing it, and yes, of course it's hard. Like, how do you get up in the morning when you have to face all these people?
Well, he doesn't go to sleep. That's how he does it. He sleeps on his feet, right? That's a joke, but it's almost true.
Yes. The story about it was an interview, I think some interviewer asked him, how do you, trying to say that he's so horrible and all that, how do you sleep at night? And he said, naked with a supermodel. Did you hear that one?
No, I missed that one.
Anyway, yes, it is very, very difficult. But the answer is in, we see the answer in what happened after the attempted assassination in Pennsylvania.
Fight.
Exactly. Now, I don't think people, except people like you, but I don't think people, the general public, certainly not TDS, realize the significance of that, because surely he did not expect to be assassinated that day, to have an attempt on his life that day. So he didn't plan ahead of time. Now, if somebody tries to assassinate me, I'm going to jump up and say, fight. So it was like totally automatic, innate. And what he was saying was, to the people, like he was saying, because he didn't know how badly he was injured. He knew there was blood. It could have gotten into his brain. So what he was saying was to all of us, if I die, and I'm not saying that he was conscious of putting all of that together at that moment, but unconsciously, what he was saying is who he is. Fight. Like, if I die, you keep fighting for America.
And Dr. Lieberman, like we've talked about this with many guests on this show, he broke every protocol in the book. First off, he didn't know how badly he was hurt. He didn't know if the threat had been eliminated. He didn't know if there was another shooter. He knows the protocol was they cover him. You see no part of his body. You hear nothing from him until the threat is eliminated. Everything's been cleaned up, and then you uncover the president. He popped up out of there, fight, rose above them, exposed his head. If there had been a second shooter, he could have blown his head off. He didn't care. That was his moment, just as you said, and it was instinctive. He said, no, we're not, this isn't how I roll. This is how I roll. Fight. You do the same. You were so right about that.
Exactly.
Now,
and so
go ahead.
That's the mettle of a man. So people who have TDS, like, none of them would have done that,
Now they're running for the hills. First off, they wouldn't have been there, but this is craziness. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. My final question to you, I've asked you, is it correctable? But let's say, because a lot of people that watch these podcasts, they don't have TDS, but they know people who do. So what advice would you give to anybody watching this podcast for their loved ones, their friends, their relatives, or even people they may meet in the street, the supermarket, or wherever? What advice would you give in dealing with a person that has TDS?
It's very difficult. First of all, they should realize that they're not alone, that other people are having these same problems. It's different if it's somebody like a stranger. It's very dangerous to confront a stranger because, just like we were talking about on the subway, you don't know just how intense that person is. You don't know what their mental health is, and so that would be dangerous. The best thing is to just not get into it with them, because nothing you're going to say is going to be able to change their mind. You could give out my card. The number to call in New York is, with the thing is with family, as I was saying earlier, there are lots of divorces based on TDS, which is very unfortunate. And certainly they should go to any couple, whether it's TDS or any other problem, they should go to therapy for at least a year before they divorce, especially if they have children. So this would be another example of why they would do that. If it's family, I mean, I know there are people who have lost cousins or closer relatives who don't talk to them anymore because of this. When it was the holidays, I was saying, like, when you get together for dinner, you could put a glass on the table. First of all, tell people no politics allowed. And it doesn't just have to be a holiday dinner. In general, when you see people, you can just tell them no politics allowed. And if they do start talking about Trump or politics in general, they have to put a quarter or a dollar into a cup or give you that, and you put it towards a charity. You have to keep a sense of humor about all of this, and also, to make certain logical or practical changes, that things that could work. I mean, I have friends, some close friends who were very Biden. Well, they weren't really very Biden. They were just against Trump, which is really, nobody was really for Biden when he was running. They were just against Trump. They could have put a parakeet up, for a president. They would have voted for a parakeet. So, who would have had more sense perhaps than Biden. You really have to. So I was saying, I have some friends who are like that. And what we do is we just, with sort of an understanding that we don't talk about Trump, or we don't talk about, every once in a while you kind of creeps into the conversation, but I don't try to tell them, how great he is. I mean, and when some people heard that I was going to the inauguration, you're doing what for him? What?
Let me ask you. I'm glad I need to lay on the couch and have you help me. Here's what I don't understand. I don't understand the blatant hypocrisy. I don't understand when they completely go hypocritical and completely say one thing and then go the complete opposite way on the same issue. Don't they know we know? Don't they know we see this?
Yes.
Is it they don't care? How do they pull this off? Are they delusional?
I think some of them have to know that we know. I mean, it's, first thing that comes to mind is Governor Gruesome Newsom, who, told everybody we had to wear masks and we couldn't go into restaurants and eat next to people and all that kind of stuff. And then he ate in this fancy restaurant, of course, without a mask. Yes, and then he got caught. But like these people, even though they do these things and they are so hypocritical, somehow they manage to continue. Nothing happens to them. That's the problem. There's no punishment.
It's coming. It's coming. I could talk to you all day and all night, but I know we both have things, especially you, to do. I really appreciate you coming back. I have to admit, I truly enjoyed this. And what is interesting about me enjoying this is a very, very serious topic that I should be depressed, but I've just had so much, it's fun talking to you, Dr. Lieberman. Please tell people how they can reach you and anything that you'd like to promote.
Sure. Well, of course, they can look at my Twitter. I usually first thing in the morning rant on Twitter, which is Dr. Carole, MD, DrCarole, MD. And then I have a number of websites, but my favorite is terroristtherapist.com. And I have my books, and I have my my videos that I created for the anniversaries of 9/11 and the anniversary for October 7th. I think people they became, this past year, my 9/11 video became not just a warm and fuzzy, let's remember 9/11. It was a warning about how terrorists are at the gate, are in our streets, not just at the gate, are literally in our streets. And I guess those are the main things that I would like people to, my book, of course, Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, oh my, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror.
You've done great work, and we really appreciate you. And America definitely needs a psychiatrist. So, thank you for being who you are, and thanks for coming on. And God bless you and your family.
Thank you very much. You too.
There you have it, Dr. Carole Lieberman. I want to thank Dr. Carole Lieberman, America's Psychiatrist, for coming back and hanging out with me again. I had such an exhilarating time speaking with her, and I really didn't expect it this time because the topic was so depressing. But I really had a ball. It was a blast speaking with Dr. Carole, and this is such an important topic, people, because everybody has to deal with it. There's somebody in your life that's suffering from this. And we just hope that you found something that you can take out of this, not only to understand what it is and why it's so dangerous and destructive, not only to the individuals, but to the nation, but also how it can help you dealing with friends, family, loved ones, whoever that are suffering from what has become a reality. So we thank you, Dr. Carole, for who you are and what you do, and keep up the good fight. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Video version is on several different sites. You can find it at Rumble, YouTube, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, vachristian.org, Conservative Television of America, the America First Warehouse.com, yournews.com, and WeSeeYouMedia.com. Wherever you go, please click the notification button, subscribe, leave us a rating and a review. Well, that's it for now, everyone. Hope you had a great time. I know we did. So until the next time, this is your host, Gary Binford, saying God bless you, God bless your families, and God bless America.